Alex Answer here. It is April 21st, 2016. What's clear to me is that there is a need for Americans nationwide to organize. And today there's enough people living in their RVs that are going through what I'm going through, or in other situations where their tiny homes are being prohibited from being in certain areas, or perhaps there's other land use issues. The fact of the matter remains, the general public isn't helping. Lawyers don't want to get involved unless they're going to get paid. So when you have lower income off-gridders being pushed off their land, who comes to their rescue? You know, we're in a world where there are lawyers that will represent people being arrested at rallies, that will represent them in certain cases. There's free legal support to an extent for certain civil matters if it happens to interest that particular firm, if that's their specialty. Land use code issues, things of this nature, are pretty much not on the table. We have civil rights issues. You look at the ACLU front page, they're talking about homelessness and the homeless sweeps, what's constitutional versus unconstitutional. Well, that's important as well, but it's not the only thing that's important. You see, there's a middle area that's being overlooked by America. You have people living in their homes that are going through that experience, trying to keep their homes and all the attention surrounding that. Then you have the straight up homeless without a vehicle in urban areas, dependent on shelters, dependent on soup kitchens. They pretty much physically have nothing and are immobile. So they're stuck in these certain areas where, of course, paperwork is pushed at them from all different directions, government aid and government assistance. So this middle ground that's been overlooked is this area regarding off-the-grid living. And people with a low to modest to sometimes, people with money are able to do it and they're able to abide by the certain regulations, but that's all adding into the rezoning of some of these places. Counties, where they're going for the high dollar investor who's going to build a big home that's going to increase the overall value of the land in the county. And so we've seen consequences of this, different forms of gentrification. Portland has its version, San Francisco had its version. The rural areas, they have their own version. And in the end, the locals are priced out. So right now we have a nationwide movement of American refugees that are in different circumstances, different geographical locations, but there is a fairly similar objective that a lot of them have. First of all, you have living in freedom, following one's dreams, and many of these people are, I don't want to use the term environmentalists, but they appreciate nature. And there's a variety of stereotypes that I've already mentioned, from drug addiction to trash dumping to other things that contaminate the earth, that have been used to demonize people that in fact want to live closer to the earth. Now, we're talking about an unorganized movement of American refugees to the tune of millions. And many couples and individuals, they're living their own lives. Some of them don't have the internet. Some of them don't have solar panels mounted to their RV. So we're at different levels of being able to live in our RV. For example, I don't need any hookups. And I buy my water from the store in big jugs. And I don't have a lot of perishables right now, but I have enough food for days, stuff I can boil. There's oatmeal, there's potatoes, a couple bags of that. There's some quinoa, a few eggs left, a little bit of meat. I've adjusted to living outside urban areas for extended periods of time. And so that's what a lot of people want. Some people want more than life in the RV. They want to build a home. But with these new land use codes and regulations, many of them that have popped up in the last few years, This requirement to have a septic prices out a lot of these people. And so they're left to spending their money instead on gas. And this is happening all across America and perhaps other places in the world, but we're focusing on our country. Now, a lot of these people have skills. Some of them worked most of their life, either at a firm or some sort of organization. Maybe they're involved in marketing. And either because they lost their job or they chose to move on with their life and follow their dreams, and they voluntarily left the city behind. Whatever the case, whatever the circumstance. The time must come. Now that we have the internet, we have YouTube, and people are starting to get a picture of what's happening out there in America. This time has come for people with those skills, especially communication, organization, legal, for them to build websites and organize, to assist this unorganized, leaderless national movement. Now, there will be people that will try to co-opt it and to redirect things to the federal government and applying for welfare. And even situations where, the government sets aside certain chunks of land, but it's still their land, it's still their rules, and it's still their regulations. So the question is, do we have land rights or do we not have land rights? There certainly are a lot of people on the internet say what they're doing is illegal. But what can the people that are going through this that don't have money for a big-time lawyer, what can the people do to organize their information, put together their cases, and take it to wherever it needs to go? And there are people that are operating at different levels of the legal spectrum. I think that ultimately, if some of the actions taken are illegal, do we really have to go the direction of common law? I'm not an expert on that. I'm not here to say that there's no value in it. I'm here to say, and I've already reported on, people that have used that to co-opt the off-grid movement. People like Bruce Doucette, people like Roger Marsh. I'll never forget him saying right there in San Luis, code is not law. And everybody, yep. And yet here we are in 2016. Well, is it or is it not? And if it's not, and no one's done anything, then we're a nation of lawlessness. And I think I'm probably already getting a bunch of nods out there. Yes, it's a nation of lawlessness unless you have the money to defend yourself. But are we able to think outside the box of money? To hire a lawyer? And are we able to evolve to this challenge? To where we use our intellect in some way, shape, or form to shine light on the issue, to bring resolution to the issue, to propose solutions, even if the odds are stacked against us. There's different ways to operate and respond to some of these things. Going down to county commissioner meetings, city hall meetings, speaking your mind, that's one way. There's other ways people can help while remaining in the shadows. You can build a website. You can write an article about what you know entitled Jane Schmo. A lot of people write with pen names. I think a lot of us just hope to get away. I know I did. From all the rules and regulations when we sought to go off grid, and we found ourselves towns, cities, different places across America where we're seeing the hammer come down, and it's not all the way down, but it's up there. The no parking signs are starting to pop up in certain areas where there's a lot more travelers. The economy isn't doing good, and instead of people being aware of why the economy isn't doing good, why they don't have jobs locally, there's resentment towards outsiders. And there's outsiders coming in everywhere because people have been pushed into mobility. There I was in Portland, looking at the outsiders as the invaders. In reality, it's really about the real estate tycoons. As It's really about the city of Portland and the greed. Who cares if the property values go up to where locals are displaced? Bring it on. Make another TV show while you're at it. Those people aren't necessarily guilty for moving to Portland. The reality is they were pushed out of where they were. And then I, for the last time, was pushed out of Portland. Now, I chose to leave, and I left my TV show behind. I left other things behind. I left people I knew behind. And I represent a reverse of the Oregon Trail. People that are leaving an area that at one point was a major entry point. And I believe that this is natural. The human migratory pattern. And it's abstract, and I do see patterns where people are moving into certain areas during a certain period of time, and then it tapers off. Cycle of man and the sun. And so, there's concern that some people have in some areas that the growth will just continue exponentially, and that's not, I don't believe that that's actually the case. You have waves, and then there's a decline in a certain type of activity. Whatever it is, there's a high and a low to everything. Right now, we're still in that high period of mobility and moving and people trying to settle. And until we stumble upon some solutions, these people are just going to continue to stay stuck in a situation as long as they're paying the gas prices of today. So let me know your thoughts. How can people organize, use their intellect without money to improve this situation?